Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Thanks, everyone. Because Jay Rollins was back first and because they had a merged effort to start off with, I want to let Jay kick us off from Imperial, and we'll work East County and come back in that direction.
All right, thanks, Bruce. Yeah, Gary, KM6LKP, and myself did kind of a unified East County, Imperial County, because otherwise we would have been talking to ourselves. So I'm presenting for both. And what we were asked to talk about was capabilities and changes to membership. We added challenges to that. As far as capabilities for East County and Imperial County, repeaters is kind of how we make our money on a weekly basis. That's what we rely on commonly. Like if I need to talk to Gary, I will jump on the 220 repeater or something and talk to him that way. But we both recognize that those are tenuous, and that HF is really the secret for how we're going to communicate when things go badly. So that continues to be Gary's and my focus. We would love, or I would say, I would love for 10 meters and 6 meters to be able to work over the mountains. But that at this point is still a pipe dream. But so we're focusing on like 40 and 80 meters, and we rehearse that weekly on a weekly basis. As far as members go, both Gary and I are in very low density areas for both ARES members and kind of group joining hams. I don't know if that's, I may have coined a new term there, but folks that aren't just hams by themselves. Although I suspect that I would have a lot of folks coming looking for us if something went bad, because that's what's happened in the past. So we deal with that by making relationships across the mountains and talking to each other. Groups like the young group in Borrego Springs, we think is significant. Both of us are trying to make inroads there so that we have a good relationship with them. And there's also, it was also brought up that there is a existing packet digital UHF and VHF system that is underutilized that could be used to better systems here in our area. And that's all I have. Thanks very much.
I was going to put a challenge out for fun before we kick this off, and I missed my note on this entirely while we were talking about Tim. For the sake of interest and fun, each of the ECs that we have has the opportunity to give themselves a code name or moniker to go by. That way, when we're talking about people, we don't have to say Jay, we don't have to say Jay Rollins, we don't have to say Imperial, we can just say what the site normally is, or whatever friendly site name or moniker you'd like to come up with. And I'll give you time to think about that, Jay. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But all of the other ECs can do that too. That way everybody can have their special code name just for fun.
Well, when Afghanistan, the general called me the bald eagle, so I'll go with that one.
There you go. Rob will be taking notes. Any questions for Jay? All right, I want to put a sticky note on your comment about 6 meters and 10 meters. And I also want to revisit 2 meters with you as well, simplex. I think we have a handful of folks here on this side of the mountains that should be able to work at least some of the stations in Imperial, I would hope, with fair regularity. Let's put that, like I say, on a sticky note somewhere for maybe a future, pull an hour on a weekend somewhere, maybe an hour during the weekdays, if that's even more amiable for some folks, depending on whether they're working at home, things like that. And let's ring that out a little bit, because I'd like to know. I think you've told me, Jay, that you can hear me on 2 meters simplex, you know, across the lagunas and things like that. And I think a couple of other folks out there as well, but let's really ring that out, especially with the EC side. So add that to your short list, if you wouldn't mind. Cool deal. East County. That would be Gary, I think.
That was the East County and
mix. Got it. I got it. Who would like to go next?
I'll take it. South Bay.
I was about to go out and tag you anyway, since I'm watching faces and nobody's raising their hands.
That's
Go ahead,
right.
Fred. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, our group was the usual suspects, almost like a mini SOBARS meeting, but I digress. But yeah, we talked about our our capabilities that we each have, which I pretty much know just because I personally know all these people. We did talk about Simplex, that did come up. We did talk about C4FM, how that's underutilized in our area since we have 2 C4FM repeaters, and we understand that not everybody has Fusion, but we have members in our area that do. So we also talked a little bit about DMR Simplex, since many of us have DMR radios, and not to discount those because they work surprisingly well. Let's see, we didn't really have any new members in the room. Membership is what it is due to, I think a lot of it due to COVID and not meeting in person, but I think everybody has that issue. We talked about doing an unscheduled emergency drill, check-in type drill, and emphasize, like, hey, we have that thing called the comp plan that Rob and others put a lot of time and effort into, and we really need to use that. Everybody should have that handy. I know, being the geek that I am, I have one in the truck, I have one in my go bag, I have it on my phone. So we really need to utilize that, because that's kind of what we're going to do. And if we're doing check-ins, we have to understand during an emergency, it may be something other than ham radio. It might, we might not have as much capability as we think. So anything goes to at least try to check in on and check on folks. So yeah, that was pretty much we had a good conversation about that kind of thing. Go ahead, Jake, or Bruce, sorry, go ahead.
Appreciate it, Fred. One of the things I'm thinking of as well tactically, and I don't know to what depth or detail the folks are keeping track of this, or that the ECs are tracking the folks in their group. I would be interested in operational capabilities from a longevity perspective, as much as I am a capacity from range of radios and bandwidth. If we've got folks out there that we know are likely to be on the air for an extended outage window, more than a couple of days, I think you guys should be aware of who those people would be within your area or region in general. All of the folks that are ECs and DECs. It's good to know what you've got yourself. I mean, you may have a couple of battery packs for your cell phone. That's always good. You may have, an extra car battery sitting in the garage. You might have a whole bunch of bio-NO stuff hanging out. Maybe there's a generator. Maybe you've got wind power. Maybe you've got solar, combinations of those things. I would like to kind of keep a pulse again on, and not for distributions. We don't want to advertise what people have in general, but you kind of know the direction I'm going. Let's make sure we know who the longer winded people would be in an event window that runs very, very long, and we are compromised from a power perspective. Again, I'm less concerned with the fact that they can go DC to daylight, but can we keep people up on the air, or keep certain sites or stations up on the air for a longer window and use those tactically? That might be to an advantage, knowing that in advance of a real event.
Yeah, good. That's a good point, Bruce. And again, the individuals in our group, and like I said, I know most of them. We kind of know who has generators. I know John just got one. We have that, and batteries and fuel. I know Mark. I kind of have a feel for that, at least in my area. And but certainly that's a good point, that capability plus longevity is probably a good factor to consider.
Very good. And I know that for a lot of folks, especially SOBARs, you guys have got a good club setup, if you will. You've got, you know, capabilities, you've got a place that you could bug out to and use, you know, I guess almost unending solar power if the sun is out there shining and we're not all clouded over and things like that. But the encouragement is also to think, again, if you have a worst case scenario, that site's not available, it's not reachable, you can't get there. You know, again, we're back to the lowest common denominator. What do you have within your reach? What do you have within your home? What do you have within, you know, your neighborhood, perhaps? What do you have within your car? And, you know, kind of a chuckle for me was I, you know, drive around the neighborhood occasionally. I'm doing things, dropping kids off, running errands, whatever it happens to be. And I'm probably just as big a geek as anybody else out there that's a long-term or long-time ham radio operator. I am looking at, you know, the street as I'm driving by stuff, and it usually doesn't happen when I'm driving per se, usually much more when I'm a passenger in the vehicle, but I will somehow out of my peripheral vision pick up the fact that there are 2 new ham radio antennas a block away. And I kind of want to know who those people are, not because I'm dying of curiosity, but you know, anyone that's in our neighborhoods, anyone that's around us could potentially be a resource to fall back on. If your station is down, maybe their station isn't. Maybe they're not a member of ARES, but you could have that relationship or at least that neighborly knock on the door, introduce yourself. Hopefully don't have any weird, you know, effects because of that, because sometimes we will introduce ourselves as another fellow ham in the neighborhood. But, you know, build the relationships around you and maybe get some more ARES members in as well and do things like that. Just kind of a thought. And I'm saying that because in the last 5 or 6 months, there's probably been a half a dozen stations that have, you know, put up brand new aluminum. So I know they're kind of new kids on the block, so to speak. Very good. Thanks for the report, Fred. Dennis, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure enough, Bruce. We had a nice little get together, and some of the topics that we covered were a couple of my goals, one of which is to finally work with folks to see if we could get some AECs for the metro area, geographically distributed such that there isn't a single point of failure if I can't get on the air. And so I'll be putting out a request for people in the my area of responsibility to see if they'd like to be AECs, assistant ECs, and see if we can get that going this year. That's one of my goals. As regards to activity day next weekend, I've discussed with a couple of folks the idea of having a simplex net, which is hardly a new idea. We do it all the time. However, I don't know that we've ever done a UHF net to see what our radios can do in that band. So I'll be putting out some information probably through Rob with regards to operating a UHF simplex net from the Tierra Santa group's site on that Saturday. So I'll give a time. I'll pick a frequency from the comm plan. There are 4 frequencies listed on the comm plan, so I'll pick one of those. And so probably a time, maybe 9:30-ish or so, and just figure about 15 minutes to see if people want to call in and see who can hear whom on in the 440 range. So we discussed that. I reminded everybody to do their ARES logins. We welcomed Ted from the San Diego State area to our group. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It was a nice little get together. Glad we had the opportunity to do that.
Excellent. Thanks, Dennis. Anyone have questions for Dennis? All right. Thank you, sir. Who'd like to go next?
I'll take it if you want for Penasquitos.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so Penasquitos, we talked about our experience during the VHF contests of the past, figuring out who can and cannot talk to each other on simplex, and how sometimes just pushing the painter's pole up a few more feet, we're able to talk to people specifically on 220 when we're trying to get those extra points for 220, a few more feet on the painter's pole, and we could get over some ridges that were otherwise blocked. We've got a mountain in the middle of the Penasquitos area here, which sort of means that we can talk all the way around the mountain, but we can't talk across the mountain necessarily. That's Black Mountain in Penasquitos. So we talked about 220. Is it a ham band? Advantages, who's got the equipment? Maybe, maybe not. And then we went off into a tangent and talked at length about upcoming Quartz Fest, plans for Quartz Fest, and then Heather had to punch out. She's got a test session starting in a few minutes. So test session, thank you to the VEs are going to be able to support that. Back to Bruce, K6RJF.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Comments for Rob or questions? I had one note on yours, Rob. You had mentioned painter's pole, portable operations, pushing antennas up, things of that nature. If you are in a urban environment, and I know this is maybe a little challenging to go out and do, but it's still good opportunity with the aforementioned VHF event coming up. If you're actually putting up temporary antennas and you're doing things with a painter's pole and you're realizing that you've got spots and places that you can't reliably hit, but you're close. If you have the opportunity, I would absolutely encourage you to move the antenna 12 feet one direction or another, go pick some other direction to plant it in, go put it on the other side of the house, go do something else with it. It sounds really odd when you're talking about omnidirectional vertical antennas, and I'm making this comment, but I've had many cases where simply moving the antenna 12, 15, 20 feet from where it was, even at the same height, to a different location will sometimes matter in how the other side of that conversation or communication is somehow either enhanced or maybe even gets worse. It just depends. But I've had plenty of opportunities where just moving the antenna 12 feet is going to make a huge difference. And it's just very interesting. Height, of course, is always the better and most opportune thing to take advantage of. But sometimes just physically moving it, just because you're obscured, you've got blockage somewhere, you know, you can't envision the line of sight path that the signal is actually taking. Sometimes that's worth a shot. Who would like to go next? Who's still remaining? I'll pull my box back over to the middle of the window.
Valley Center can go if you'd like, Bruce.
I was just going to say, you've got a good chunk in there, sir. Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Again, the usual, we're in the room. We had Kevin, K6KMH, and AEC, but he focuses mostly on HF. And then, of course, Gary, N6GLS, which is our resident WinLink person. And we were fortunate this time to have Gary, W5WYQ, joined us from close to Nashville today. But we discussed mainly our comm trailer and the things that we need to do there. We're pretty much under control on the comm trailer, with the exception of HF. And we're going to be getting together at about noon today. Gary's N6GLS and Kevin, K6KMH, and I to work out some of the antenna issues for HF. We have a screw antenna on there now where we're able to get 20 meters, but that's not quite good enough. So we're going to do some experimenting with the grounds and experiment, because we have a pump up tower on there for NVIS also, and just to make sure that we've got most of our HF covered that we need to onto there. That's our main concern. The other thing that we discussed was our repeater system up on Palomar. We had been out, the link had been out for close to 2 weeks, which was not our fault. I'm not going to play victim on that one. That was from the wireless internet provider. And they finally got their act together and got us back up last Thursday. But anyway, which also means, Monir, our VARA FM is back up and operational on that. The other thing is too, I've got 2 more VARA FM stations. I just need to find some places to put them. But I've got them ready to go and to be installed. And we also discussed a small grant that we got for the club, and we're going to be using most of that probably to complete out what we need for the VARA FM stations as they go around. So I want to be able to cover more areas, and then when Palomar goes out, as it does because of the nature of Palomar, we can get some VARA FM's not going to go out. And I don't remember, Gary or Kevin, do you remember what else we talked about? I think that pretty much that was a tall enough order to cover all of that. But anyway, the comm trailer is all ready to go, and we're going to be taking the comm trailer out to the field on next Saturday. So we'll be able to test that out completely. And again, we'll be using HF on there as well as the 2 meter. And we're going to be adding, we didn't discuss this, but I want to add a second simplex channel. So Rob, I'm going to send you some changes and so forth. And also something that I want to do, I'll just mention it now, because a lot of people are using our 2 meter repeater on Palomar. I do want to change the PL onto that, probably wait until March to do that. So that people can kind of get used to it, to those that are. The problem is there's a very powerful station up on Crestline whose output frequency, they're putting out about 100 watts for God knows what reason. But anyway, their output frequency is only 15 kilohertz away from our input frequency, and being up on Palomar and them up on Crestline, they kind of blast us a bit. We've gone really well as far as eliminating their frequency, but occasionally, and they've got the same PL that we have. And rather than going and whining to them about changing their PL, we're just going to go ahead and change our PL, because that's where the big problem is the PL on our receive side. So anyway, I want to do that, and I'll get all that information to you, Rob, coming up in the next week or so, but probably in March, because we have to change all of our radios as well for that. But anyway, that's pretty much it for us, unless Kevin or Gary has something else to add. And I see Gary shaking his head, so.
No, that covers it, Mike.
Okay.
So Mike, for the repeater issue that you were talking about, are you getting desensing on the input, or are you just getting interference?
We're only getting interference. The desense we took care of,
Okay.
with some additional filters and so forth. It's basically interference. Like for example, on my radio here, I've got a very high gain antenna, omnidirectional at my house. And oftentimes in the evening, on Tuesday evening, they have their net going on Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock, and they start kind of coming through a little bit, because again, the PL is the same. And even though I have PL on both receive and transmit on my radio and on our repeaters, not all of us, but a few of us, particularly with higher gain antennas, are starting to get them coming through. So I think if we just change the PL on our receive, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, good to know. Any questions for Mike? Thank you, sir. Staying with North County, did we have anybody at Fallbrook or in Fallbrook? or Escondido. I'm not seeing any raisings of the hands. Do we have anybody in Carlsbad?
This is Gary English, Whiskey 5, Whiskey Yankee, Quebec. There were only 2 of us in the Carlsbad, and I neglected to capture the name and call
Okay.
the other gentleman. He's in Encinitas, new member, new ham too, if I recall. We talked about some basics. He has the comm plan. I gave him a pointer, Robert Brown, into PNZ. I don't know how active PNZ is these days, but he's a possible contact for him. He's interested in the HF stuff and is on the, I believe, the Thursday net fairly frequently. So there's a little bit of activity there, but there was actually nobody from Carlsbad. I don't count them, a couple grid squares to the east.
You're the East Carlsbad representative, sir, and we appreciate you very much.
Roger.
All right, thank you, sir. I'm just going down the list of the rooms that we've got them on the chart. Did we hear from Ramona yet? Did we have anybody representing Ramona? All right, guess not. Any ECs that we haven't covered or heard reports from yet that were participating today?
Was there a San Marcos discussion?
This is AF5T Marty in San Marcos. So the San Marcos room, we had a meeting with that included Ed, KJ6 as EML, and Mike, K6 AMQ. We mostly discussed topics around next weekend's activity day, the kind of gear that we want to showcase. The sort of highlight is that Ed will be running a antenna build workshop. So we have some exciting activities planned for that. We got a ladder line, got some coax cable, and a plan to build J-poles with anybody that wants to do that. We talked about new rigs that we want to try out with sort of different antennas, and going to have some interesting challenges related to power supplies and trying to get the rig to work in a mobile setting. And also we'll be showcasing a what I would call a commercial air travel compatible both sort of as a single sideband CW and a digital rig that will be allowed on an airplane, and people can take to various places. And then a lot of the discussion also focused around the some of the unique topology in the San Marcos area. For example, Mike, K6AMQ, myself, we're sort of located in opposite sides of San Marcos. While Mike usually can reach most of the Palomar repeaters. The region where I'm located is very hard for me to reach the Palomar repeaters, although I do have a good luck with the 220. But then I usually have no issues hitting the Otay repeaters and the Woodson repeaters. And so there's some kind of unique challenges here in the topology that the San Marcos folks need to be aware of when they need to communicate. So that's all we discussed in the short time we had.
Thank you, Marty. I appreciate it. Any
A question for
questions?
Marty, if I could. If the antenna build workshop will include soldering, let me know and we'll put that in the advertisement. We've had some requests for information about soldering.
It will indeed. So we so Ed and I discussed the soft portable soldering iron to bring, and I think I'll test the one another one that I have slightly higher wattage soldering iron, and make sure there are no surprises when we do that in the field.
Excellent, thank you.
comment on soldering irons, or soldering in general. Wear safety goggles. Glasses may be good, but goggles are better. If you go for an MRI at some point, a head MRI, they're going to say, and have you ever soldered? And if you have, they're going to make you take an x-ray to make sure there's no little bits of lead embedded in your eyes, which would cause problems in the MRI. Don't ask me how I know.
Excellent suggestion, Jay. We'll definitely adhere to that.
All right, important safety tip. Thanks, Jay. Any questions for Marty aside from that?
Marty, I may be bringing material to do a couple of those water pipe dipoles as well. You know, two 19.5-inch lengths of 1/2-inch copper and then spacer in between.
That is excellent. No, that really looking forward to that on the 15th. It'll be fun.
All right, Rob, who did we not have report in so far?
Not anyone that I can think of.
That's what I was thinking too. I thought we were at the end of the list. Did we miss anyone? Okay. Throwing an idea out maybe for the next, not this, but the next possible activity day. Think about what it might look like if we had a number of sites around the county doing different activities, and then to either attract or draw interest from the community, maybe a little online form that they could print out, has the addresses, locations of the different sites. And when you visit the site, someone signs off that you visited there, kind of like your merit badge thing in Scouts. And then for participants that went out and just hit the various sites, participated, did an activity, did something, got on the radio, made a couple of contacts, did some soldering, built something, learned something, etc. You know, have those folks that are maybe in the regular community get some kind of a little award or a prize or an ARRL book or something, make it a little bit of a cannonball run / ham radio fun contest, just as a possible suggestion, just throwing it out there. Doesn't mean that it's going to stick, just throwing it out there.
Tierra Santa, we put a article in the local newspaper about activity day for next Saturday. So we may have some visitors from the public showing up.
You know, you guys actually have, with all sincerity, Tierra Santa, for those that may not have necessarily been in the radio community for a long time, Tierra Santa was one of those interesting neighborhoods where it was not quite CCR, you know, dire straits, can't do anything, but it was very much a managed neighborhood from the perspective of doing things in that area when it was built. I remember a lot of folks that were ham radio operators there 30, 40 or more years ago, when it was still a lot of Navy housing and things like that. And a lot of things weren't allowed there. And it was very difficult to go out and get permission to put things up. There's actually a very high population of amateur radio operators in Tierra Santa now. So I hope you get some traction out of that. And I hope you get a lot more foot traffic, if you will. That would be very cool. Any closing
For
thoughts?
Dave, a
Yeah.
question for Dave, if Dave is still on.
I am still here.
Awesome. Do you have a stash of ARRL giveaways? I know it's too late now to order for this next Saturday, but I was just thinking maybe for a future event, we could increase our inventory of giveaways to distribute to the different activity points.
I have 2 or 3 antenna books and I think a couple of handbooks. One of them, the handbooks, belongs to Jay, but we just haven't been able to get together. That was from the contest from last year.
No stash of like frequency band charts or anything like that then?
I probably have some of those as well.
So somebody should contact you if they want to set up the logistics of getting a transfer made during this week.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
And in that same vein or same line, if it's not already being done, I think another possible handout informationally that might be good to have available. How do you get your ham radio license? What are testing sites? What are websites you can go to learn more about? That way there's collateral for all of the teams that are putting on events next weekend.
And I also have ARRL literature on that as well. So if anybody wants anything, contact me and we'll try and see what we can put together. I did throw a link in chat for the ECs. Would like to just sort of update all your information. It's the ARRL form 156. If you could fill that out and get that back to me, just so we can keep our records up to date and make sure we have everybody listed properly.
All right. Anything in closing, Dave?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything in closing, Rob?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. For those that are ARRL members, you may have received a survey in email regarding some questions about both this current field day coming to bear in June, as well as field days beyond June. Some of it has to do with allowing continued participation from the home stations. A few questions in there about power changes for different categories and what's allowed versus what should not be allowed. General questions like that. You might want to take a look at your email if you're an ARRL member. Get the survey filled out. I don't know how long it's going to still be available, but I think we're probably coming to a close pretty quickly. I think it's been out for maybe several days, if not a week or so now.
Hey, Dave, Bruce, how did you vote?
I'm not telling. I'm not telling. I was going to also mention that I don't know that we mentioned it on this particular meeting at the front end, but we do have winter field day at the very end of the month, if I remember correctly. So if I remember the dates, it'll be the last full weekend of January. It should, I believe, follow the VHF event. Well, let me look to make sure I'm not fibbing about that.
Winter Field Day is at the end of the month. It is January 29th.
Yes,
so it's
it
the
is.
last day of Quartz Fest. It is also the first day of Winter Field Day.
So if you're interested in doing that, that's a another opportunity to get on the air. It is literally meant for less fair weather operations than you might find in the summer months regionally and around the United States. It is intended to go out and be as simple as going in your backyard, hanging out in a tent in your backyard, or going out to wherever you happen to be and literally operate from the outdoors in less than pristine, good, great, optional weather and sunshine like we normally get here in Southern California, almost around the calendar and around the calendar year. So if you were to simply Google winter field day, it'll take you right to the site. All the rules are there, information's there. Another opportunity to get on a play radio, especially with the HF stuff. There will be a lot of people out there with lower power gear. Winter field day is a much slower pace for a lot of folks than regular field day is. So it's not gonna clobber the bands quite as much. Winter field day doesn't allow digital from an FT8 perspective. So it's CW and phone. There are some restrictions in there. So it's slightly lighter attended, so it's not going to overwhelm the bands. But the other thing that's interesting about winter field day is that because there's not going to be a ton of people out there, there also won't be really big stations out there crushing the guys that are out running 5 watts, 10 watts from their 705s and their Zygus and their lower power radios. You actually will have an opportunity to play QRP if you really want to do that and do it parks on the air style, do things like that at lower power levels, battery, mobile, portable, etc., and have a much higher success rate than fighting off the fighting off the kilowatt plus home 1D stations during a field day event. So I hope that'll answer your question, Rob.
That did.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us know how you voted.
You know, I got to be honest about it. It's like 1D to 1D. I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. I would like to encourage people to get out in the field and do it from somewhere else, but whatever is available. I don't have anything additional unless we have any closing comments or questions. I'll wrap it up and say thank you all for participating.
Question. Are there going to be sign-offs at the activity day? Training sign-offs?
That'll be up to each individual activity area.
Okay.
We'll add that to the list. Do any of the planners for the locations know right now if they're going to have sign-offs available at their location?
South Bay will.
Thank you, Fred.
So Tierra Santa will, N1TEN.
Yeah, I plan on, if I'm accosted at the event, I will definitely pay attention to sign-offs, yes.
Prepare to be accosted.
Roger, Roger.
Well, he
And,
prefers to have Scooby snacks too. If you bring him Scooby snacks, he'll be in good shape.
Okay. And I've seen on the ARES SDG ARES page about the uniforms, and Bruce, I see your photo of a meeting, all the yellow shirts and such. So if we were ever activated, are those an old version of the ARES uniform shirts, or how does that work?
I'm looking, did Mike N2DDS runs the store, and it looks like he left the meeting already. So we'll try to get information on that.
Thank you, Rob. All right, folks, thank you for attending. Appreciate you being here for the first meeting of 2022. I really would invite everyone to go out and continue your participation as much as you can. We'll definitely have some interesting events coming up in the near future. We've talked about a few of them already. And above all, please be safe out there, stay healthy, careful in what your activities are, and take care of yourselves and your families. And we will see you all in a future meeting.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Dave.
All right, thanks everybody for being there. We'll go ahead and close this and get the recording going.